Suffering is Wolverine's middle name. Here are just some of the worst things that have ever happened to Wolverine. How is this man still standing? Let's kick things off with one of the newest Wolverines we've been introduced to, the Logan from Deadpool and Wolverine. Described as the worst Wolverine in existence, I fear that's true. He could not be doing worse if he tried. You know that dinosaur book, All My Friends Are Dead? That's actually Wolverine's biography. Yeah, his friends, who, let's be real, are also his family, met the fate that pretty much all of Logan's loved ones do. Not only do they all pass away, but judging from the screams we hear in Logan's mind when Cassandra Nova is poking around, it wasn't a peaceful departure. Logan knows he could have done more to help them. He's plagued with the guilt for the rest of his life. It's a genuine, honest tragedy. At the TVA, he is a legend in a bad way, the Wolverine that let down his entire world. Alright, let's do a 180 to the beginning of Logan's life, because he cannot know peace, not even from the start. I mean, from conception, little James Howlett was set up for failure. He was born out of an affair, and his bio father was, simply put, a bad person. After being let go from the Howlett estate, he broke back in with a weapon and caused the demise of Logan's dad, John. Seeing that made James's mutant abilities manifest. The bone claws did some damage, which James's mom, who was already in a fragile mental state, saw, and that made her go insane and kick out her son. That's a lot to experience in just one evening, and it was only a taste of how bad Logan's life was going to get. If there was a competition for worst luck ever, I would enter Wolverine. It's never his day, week, month, or even his year. In a totally not morbid way, my favorite Wolverine story to tell is that he was at point zero for Hiroshima. Whether you were looking at the movies or the comics, he was right there. If Wolverine wasn't a victim of constant amnesia, he would be a wicked history teacher. I think it goes without saying that having an atom bomb dropped on you would ruin anybody's day. For your average human, you probably wouldn't make it. But Wolverine isn't a regular human. His body can stitch itself back together seemingly no matter the damage. Not even the events of Hiroshima can stop his healing factor. So not only did he get to go through the pain of that event, but now he also gets to feel his body regrowing because there wasn't much left after the experience. Whenever I'm personally given the opportunity to share a comic book fun fact, it's really a toss-up between telling this ridiculous story or that Tony Stark literally boxes with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weekly. Magneto ripping the adamantium off Wolverine's skeleton was so bad his healing factor didn't even know what to do, and it always knows what to do. The famous Magneto the Ripper moment happened in X-Men Volume 2, Issue 25. And listen, Wolverine has been hurt before, but never like this. When it happened, Jean Grey had to hold his body together telepathically just to keep the man alive. This is probably the closest time Wolverine ever came to actually going 6 feet under. But it's Wolverine. He can't disappear. He's too popular. It took a very long time for Logan to heal after this. He also went feral. We learned about the bone claws. He lost his nose. I mean, just the way they made him look in this era could make this list. The process of getting the adamantium onto his bones was already painful enough. The process of ripping it off was so much worse. Wolverine couldn't even scream while it was happening. That's how painful it was. No wonder he lost his mind for a while after. The Ultimate Universe nerfed a lot of our favorite characters' personalities, but at least we found out that the worst place Wolverine believed his consciousness could be was transferred into Peter Parker's head. That's a good enough trade-off for all the odd stuff that happened there, right? Ultimate Spider-Man 66 to 67 was all about Peter Parker and Wolverine switching bodies and essentially ruining each other's lives and reputations while trying to fix it. Logan had made Jean Grey a bit too angry, and as revenge, she cast a spell that would send Logan's brain to the place it least wanted to be, and his brain picked Peter. Now, I know that the characters are having a horrible time. Peter literally got Wolverine's body arrested and then hit with a projectile, but reading this was really fun, and the roasts they directed at each other were hilarious. From all the things we've already talked about, it's pretty clear that taking out a Wolverine is like a Herculean task. There are only a few ways it can actually happen, and one of those is drowning. This is an awful way to go for anyone, but especially Wolverine, because his body will just keep healing. He will pass, but then his body heals, it wakes him up again, only for the vicious cycle to repeat itself. Eventually, there just won't be enough oxygen available for him to keep his brain online, and after a long time, he will pass. Wolverine has nearly drowned a few times, once notably in Wolverine Black, White, and Blood. This one was bad because an already tired Wolverine was thrown into the open ocean with a shark nearby. So in addition to trying not to drown, he also had to fight a shark. Wolverine helpfully points out during this fight that his skeleton is metal, and it will drag him to the bottom of the ocean should he lose enough strength. Sick and twisted. You know that Wendy Williams clip, clap if you think he should suffer? I'm hearing thunderous applause from the X-Men writers room. Since birth, Wolverine has taken part in pretty much every major historical event, both World Wars, the Prohibition era, and even the Valentine's Day conflict that claimed the lives of 7 men. Well, 8 in the Marvel Universe. This event is a real thing that happened in 1929 Chicago. In actual history, there were no survivors from this day, but in the comics, Wolverine was of course the only survivor. Wolverine got into some hot water with Al Capone. Capone controlled Chicago's crime scene and thus anything illegal coming through, like for example, the drinks Logan was smuggling into the US with his girlfriend. Leading up to Valentine's Day, there were a few fights between Logan and Capone's men, leading to many casualties, including Logan's girlfriend. Capone denied having a hand in the situation and sent him to the person who did, but that was just a setup to get Logan to the site of the Valentine's Day event. Wolverine almost doesn't make it out of this one, but his healing factor has his back. I love how Marvel just changes history. There's this text post I once saw that in life there are 3 constants: death, taxes, and Wolverine. No matter the context, Wolverine is there, and that is what Marvel history is starting to feel like. Simultaneously, one of the worst things that has happened to and because of Wolverine was the passing of his son, Deacon. Deacon was an awful person who went out in an awful way. He was Wolverine's son, but Wolverine didn't know he existed, he didn't know he was alive. Still, he resented him for not being more active as a father in his life. In Uncanny X-Force 33, he trapped Wolverine in a water tank. As mentioned before, drowning is one terrible way to keep Wolverine out of the game, and his son knew this. Not only did he watch Wolverine slowly get weaker and weaker, but he made one of Wolverine's students watch too. So this day just keeps getting worse and worse. And then the grand finale, after Wolverine does escape, he and his son, they brawl outside, and that drowning theme makes a return. Wolverine is forced to hold his son down in a puddle until he stays down, because there was literally no other way to end this fight. While that is happening, there are flashes of the life the father and son could have had, and it was really nice. When it was all over, a battered Wolverine cradled his deceased son in his arms. In New X-Men 148, we learn that Wolverine was once trapped under a glacier for 6 months. That's already awful, but it gets worse because glaciers don't have much to eat in or under them, meaning that Wolverine got creative with his healing factor, using it to regrow his skin whenever his hunger took a piece off. He is likely stuck in a constant state of all over regeneration for this period. His healing factor is forced to not only regenerate his arm, but also any skin that is being damaged by frostbite, making him immune to the effects of it. It is currently unclear how Wolverine got under the iceberg or how he got out, but this sounds like a nightmare. And finally, we started with Deadpool and Wolverine, we end with Deadpool and Wolverine. This monstrosity comes from the comics lore. Deadpool and Wolverine have powerful healing factors that bring them back from almost anything, but this similarity bonded the two men in a way no one expected. Poolverine was born in Wolverine 23. It is the disturbing physical combination of Wolverine and Deadpool. A villain wanted to end the heroes. I mean, that's not new, but his way of going about it certainly was. He turned the two men into puddles, but it happened in the same room, so they were the same puddle. Their healing factors kicked in, but since they were a mixed puddle on the floor, they became a mixed up hero. The monstrosity that is Poolverine was created that day. Not only were their bodies merged, but their weapons and their bones were just sticking out at odd angles, and they looked awful together. They really did. I don't like looking at it. Thankfully, they were able to sort out who owns what and what goes where and separate. The pair agreed to never do that again. Thank God. As much as I love Wolverine, I never want to be him. I'd like to give him a hug though, but what do you think? Let us know. Bye!